Okay, the next accounting spreadsheet tip I'm going to be putting out here is going to be if statements. If statements can be very useful in cleaning up a spreadsheet, or sometimes spreadsheets will show error because it'll be taking one number and dividing by another number, and if it turns out to be a negative number or a where it doesn't work out, where you can't divide by a 0 or something like that, it puts down an error or something like that. If statements can clean that up. If statements also can be used in a number of different situations. In fact, your assignment, your graded assignment this period or this class will be a place where you can possibly use an if statement. And I'm going right now to where they're calculating straight line depreciation. And they're calculating straight line depreciation, looking at some information up here and saying, okay, first thing I want to do is take my asset, subtract any salvage value, and then if I'm going straight line, I'm going to divide by the number of years, right? Well, what happens if there's 5 years instead of 4 years? Well, then you would have some information out here under the fifth year. So in a situation like that, you're going to have something saying, okay, if my number of years are lower or higher, I either want a 0 or I want to calculate something. And that's where they're putting an if statement in. And let's go through and see exactly what they're doing. If statements equal if, and then you're going to need brackets, okay? And what you're looking at is you're saying B33, well, B33 is this 5. And they're saying if B33 is less than D9. D9 is up here at 4. So they're saying if the current year we're at is less than 4, put down, or is greater than 4, I'm sorry, is greater than. So you see that sign, that's greater than. If B33, the current year we're in, if it's greater than 4, put down 0. Because there won't be any depreciation in the 5th year. What it's saying is if the current year is over the 4th year and we're only depreciating it over 4 years, it will be 0. If it isn't greater than, so with an if statement you have a comma and it's saying if this is true, put down 0. If it is not true, then calculate these numbers. And then it says take D7, which is the total asset, minus D8, which is the salvage value, these two things here, and then divide by the number of years. So an if statement says, if this is true, put down 0. If it is not true, then calculate these numbers. Now you could say greater than or equals 2 in some cases. To me, this is a pretty basic and simple if statement. This one I'm going to require you to do in the graded assignment that you're going to be doing for this week, or which will be due by next Sunday. Okay? So the graded assignment that's going to be due for next Sunday, you're going to have to put in and do it under the straight line area if B33, if the current year, which is 5 right here, is greater than D9, the number of years you want to depreciate over. If that is true, put down 0. And that's what you go, comma 0. Now if I would change this formula and say, if this was true, put down 100. It'll do anything I want. And should I do that? Just to kind of show you. See, right here it says put down 0. If I say 100, or I put in 1,000, I'll put in 100. It puts down 100 because the statement is true. If it is not greater than 0, put down D7 minus D8 divided by D9. Or, just to show you what effect that has in the if statement, what if this was 5? What if we were going over 5 years? Then, would B33 be greater than D9? B33 is the number of years. If I put down 5 up above, would B33 be greater than D9? No, it won't. It'd be equal to it, right? So then it would be saying, okay, don't put down 100. Put down D7 minus D8 divided by D9. Let's just do this right away, though, and then I'll take your question. Okay, so if I put down 5 here, watch what will happen to all my straight line numbers. That 100 goes away, and now it's taking 240,000 dividing by 5. And so it puts 48,000 in each one of the years. Because in this if statement, it's saying, okay, B33 now equals D9. So I'm not going to put down this 100. I'm going to put down D7 minus D8 divided by D9. So with an if statement says, I'm going to put something, some algebraic statement here. And I'm saying, if it is true, put down this first number. If it is not true, then put down these calculations. Now, do you see where that can be helpful in some cases? Why do you put a 0? Because I'm saying if B33 is greater than D9, then it's a year after we want to actually calculate depreciation. It's the 5th year. We only want to calculate depreciation over 4 years. So if it's 5 years or above, I just want 0 in there. I don't want any calculations done because it shouldn't have any depreciation in that year. And that's why you put down 0. You're saying there shouldn't be any depreciation, so I don't want to calculate anything. But if it's lower, then I want my depreciation there. I want 1/4 or whatever of my straight line depreciation there. So it cleans it up. Otherwise, if I just put down all of those formulas down there, it would be giving straight line depreciation to every one of those years. It would give straight line depreciation to all 8 years. If I just, put down D7 minus D8 divided by D9, it's going to give it 1/4 depreciation to every year. Here, it's saying, I can change the years. It's like setting up a spreadsheet for many different fixed assets. Some of the fixed assets will have 5-year life. Some of them will have 6 years. Some of them will have 7. Some of them will have 8. So I'm setting up a spreadsheet that will handle all of those. And if I do that, what I'm saying is if it does have only 4 years, I want to put down 0 in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th year. The other years, it depends on the life of the asset. Therefore, the life of the asset can change, just like we're doing here. I mean, right now, I can change this life of the asset to 6, and the depreciation will be going over 6 years. I can have the life of this asset be 4, and it'll only go over 4 years, and then it'll put down 0 every place, except right here I changed the formula. Here, I'll put it back to 0. And so it puts 0 every place where it is past the life of the asset. 5 years is past the life of the asset, so I want 0 there. If it wasn't past the life of the asset, I want some information there. And that's why it's a if statement. It's saying, if this is true, put down 0. If it is not true, do these calculations. So if this 5 years is not past the life of the asset, do the calculations. If it is past the life of the calculation, then put down 0. And that's really where an if statement does come into play. You know, it also, I've seen it used in places where sometimes Excel will get messy and it'll put down some error messages, because if you do some calculations, this divided by this, if you're dividing by a 0, it says you can't divide by a 0 and it errors it out. Well, what you do is you say, if this is above 0, do the calculation. If it's not, just put down a 0. And then the if statement clears up those errors. So I've seen it used in those calculations too. It's like sometimes you will have an asset over 5 years, sometimes you won't. So what do you want to do? You want to put down an if statement. If the life of the asset is over 5 years, do the calculations. If the life of the asset is not over 5 years, just put down 0, because it shouldn't have any depreciation there. Did that answer your question, Bethany? Okay. And we'll put that out on Blackboard.